It's 8:31 now as we check headlines. Alberta's NDP government is banking on the bad times getting better with a red ink covered budget that promises plenty of money for social programs.
Julia Wong is covering this story for us. She joins us live from the legislature with more. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning, Aaron and Shay. Lots of people still talking about yesterday's budget. One of them in particular, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, still critical of what we saw yesterday and still shocked. With me right now is Scott Hennig with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So we were just chatting a little bit earlier. You're still stunned by the debt that you saw in yesterday's budget.
Yeah, I mean, the debt number is really astronomical. I mean, we're looking at $45 billion this year, getting to $71 billion by 2020. I mean, just to put that into context, when Ralph Klein came in and slayed the debt, I mean, a lot of people sacrificed to get that debt down. That debt was half of this amount. It was $23 billion. It's going to be a third of what the debt's going to be in 2020. I mean, the hole that we're digging right now is so huge. I mean, I don't envy any government having to dig out of it, but I mean, just continuing to put yourself in that hole is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
What could the NDP have done then? Where could they have trimmed some of that fat?
Well, they really need to look at what's happening next door in Saskatchewan or next door in BC. I mean, Saskatchewan right now, Brad Wall announced a 3.5% reduction for all government employees in terms of their overall compensation. That's where the money is. I mean, really, you could talk about trying to balance the budget on finding savings here and there, but the real money, I mean, you know, $30 billion a year of the government's budget is being spent on compensation and costs for labor. So rather than hiring another 3,000 people, rather than, you know, building in some money so they can give wage increases in this next year to all the unions, they need to start looking at controlling their labor costs, because that's what's happened in BC. And BC spends, if we spent the same level, they'd be spending $10 billion less in this province per year. That's your deficit, and that's basically on labor costs.
If we do that to our public sector, though, does that not make it more vulnerable, especially when it comes to those frontline services?
Well, I think if you look at BC, it's not like BC has no teachers or nurses or hospitals. BC does a very good job of their public service, and I think Alberta could be in the same spot while providing what services we expect, but at a much more reasonable cost.
What other ways could the province have raised more money? Would you have supported tax increases or a new tax?
No, I mean, they're already going to be increasing taxes on January 1st with a new carbon tax. We don't need any more taxes. We don't have a revenue problem in this province. We have a spending problem. I mean, the governments here were balancing budgets at much lower oil than we've had here recently. They can definitely do it again. It's getting control of their spending is where we really need to focus.
What's the next step for the Taxpayers Federation? What do you plan to do to make sure you keep this government in check?
Well, I'll be going back to the office today and updating our debt clock. The debt clock's certainly going to be picking up some steam here and getting it ready for April 1st. But after that, we were going to continue to push on the carbon tax and trying to encourage this government and any future government that might come in to get control over their costs.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you coming down here to chat with us. Scott Hennig with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, not pleased with what we're seeing, especially with the level of debt that this government will be racking up over the next few years. Aaron and Shay.
Okay, thank you, Julia.
Thanks, Julia.